I ended up reading the least amount of books this month out of the entire year, but I also think it might have my most 5-star reads. So welcome to my May wrap-up and June TBR. It's mostly going to be focused on the books that I read in May, but because I only read 6 books last month, I decided that I could probably add on my June TBR for this video. This entire year, I feel like every single month I've read at least 10 books, so it's been really hard to talk about any of the books that I want to read in the same exact video as the books that I have already read. So I'm really excited that I get to combine these two videos into one, and I'm also really excited to talk about the books that I read in May. So let's just get right on into it. The first book that I read in the month of May was Book Lovers by Emily Henry, and I gave this book a 5 out of 5 stars. Are we surprised? I was really lucky because I am part of the influencer ALX program with Libro FM, which basically means that every single month I get to choose a few free audiobooks that are always new releases. And I was so excited that Book Lovers ended up being part of that list for the month of May, because I don't know how I would have read it otherwise. I don't own it physically. I don't think that I could get it on like Hoopla or Libby at this moment. So I'm really glad that it was part of the advanced listener copies list because I really wanted to read it. So basically this book is about Nora, and she is not like your typical romance heroine. She is a go-getter, she is cutthroat, she is dedicated to her job, and she isn't the type of girl who is like, you know, that like stereotypical Hallmark heroine who's like, she's a girl in the big city, but she comes from a small town and she's going back to her small town and everything about her is going to change. It's like, no, Nora is not like that. This is not that kind of book, and I absolutely loved it for that reason. So she ends up taking a trip with her little sister Libby to this tiny town in North Carolina, and her sister is determined to give her this like stereotypical Hallmark movie experience. But instead she keeps running into one of the people that she knows from like the book industry, and his name is Charlie. And they have never really met under very good circumstances. They don't really seem to get along all that well, but there's definitely something underneath there between them. And I loved this book so much. I mean, I've never really met a solo Emily Henry book that I haven't liked, and I only say that because I didn't love her co-written book with Brittany Caballero. That was Hello Girls. Didn't love that, but we're not counting that. We're only counting her solo romance books, and I have loved all 3 of them. In my opinion, at least, you know, with my taste, she just writes the ideal romance novel, and this one is no exception. Something that I absolutely loved about Book Lovers was just like the quick, hilarious quips between the 2 main characters, Charlie and Nora. They were just so funny. They had such amazing chemistry. Everything just felt like so like bam between them, and it totally worked. And of course I love the way that Emily Henry creates her characters, and I think Book Lovers is one of like the best representations of that, because every single character felt so fleshed out, so well-rounded. Every single part of these characters was so necessary, and every character I felt like was really necessary to the plot. Like nothing felt extraneous, nothing felt like it could have been taken out and the story would have felt the same. Like every single part of this, not just with the characters, but like plot points and just like little tiny details, everything was so imperative to the story. And obviously because of the fact that this deals with Nora and her little sister, like their relationship is such a forefront part of the story, it really worked for me. You know, I love family drama, I love family dynamics, I love to see the way that families interact within books, and Emily Henry just knocked it out of the park for me with this one. Like, it had so many little things that were just right up my alley that I absolutely loved, and like, I am just so glad that I started reading Emily Henry's books. Like, I remember when I had Beach Read, I hadn't read it yet, and I was like, you know what, I'm just gonna pick it up on a whim, you know, I'm going to the beach, why not? And that has just set off like this chain of events of me falling in love with Emily Henry's writing, and I'm already like chomping at the bit for her next romance novel. I need it immediately. So Emily Henry, get working on that. The next book I read was actually one that I listened to on the plane to New York, because last month I went on a trip to New York and it was so much fun. I had a blast, and I ended up reading The X Talk by Rachel Lynn Solomon, and I gave that book a 3 out of 5 stars. So I did enjoy my experience reading the audiobook or listening to the audiobook, but overall I just felt like a lot of the story fell flat for me. And I think it's actually really telling that I didn't write a review for this book. I didn't make any updates for this book. I literally can't even imagine what I felt about this book from my Goodreads updates, because like there's nothing. No updates, no review. I didn't even care enough about the book to write like a couple of sentences about my thoughts and feelings. Like, this book was just so painfully boring and forgettable. And like, there were some redeeming qualities about this book that I can remember. I really have started to like the office setting of like certain romance books. Like, I really like romance books that center around work for some reason, which is hilarious because like I do not dream of labor, but I love reading like office romance books, and I thought that this one would totally work for me because it's centered around like podcasts, radio, and I love podcasts. Like, I'm a podcast queen. I listen to so many different ones. Like, I keep up to date with like at least 2 handfuls of podcasts. I just love them. So I thought like this one would be perfect for me. It's about these 2 office rivals. They don't really like each other, but the girl kind of creates this little scheme of like, we are going to have this podcast where we pretend to be exes and we kind of give relationship advice through that lens. And I thought it'd be hilarious. I thought it'd be fun. I thought it'd be, you know, flirty, fun, cute. And it just wasn't. It was pretty boring in my opinion. I felt like there was like a lot of things that could have been done well. Like, it had a lot of promise, but it just didn't really deliver. I honestly wish that I could remember more about how I felt about this book, so maybe I should lower it to like a 2-star rating, because clearly this book left almost no impression on me. The next book that I read was another 5-star, amazing, incredible, beautiful book, and that is Delilah Green Doesn't Care by Ashley Herring Blake. And oh my god, I love this book so much. I knew I was gonna love it. Like, I went into this book definitely ready to love it, and I'm just glad that I did. This was definitely another romance book where I felt like every character, every scenario, every little detail that took place in this book had a purpose. Like, it was all to forward the plot. It was all to like create this incredible background and story and relationships, and it just worked so well. And it left me so excited to read the like sequel book to this one, because we're gonna get a second book. I'm so excited. It's gonna follow another character in this book. I'm so ready. I need this book immediately. And obviously this one is sapphic. It's so much fun. It's about Delilah Green, and she is a semi-orphan. She has a stepmother and a stepsister, and none of them really get along. Like, she doesn't really like her stepfamily. Her stepfamily doesn't really like her, or that's just as it seems. So she ends up moving to New York City. She becomes a photographer and a waitress, and she is just kind of trying to make it through life, trying to cope with the death of her parents, trying to cope with the fact that she doesn't really have a connection to her family, and also trying to make it in the art scene. And one day her stepsister is like, come photograph my wedding, I will pay you a lot of money and this will be great. And so Delilah Green obviously decides to say yes, and she goes to photograph her stepsister's wedding. And when she's there in her small town, she runs into one of her stepsister's friends, and they have like an immediate attraction, and it is just, I love this book. I love the dynamic and the growth between all of these characters. Everyone just develops so well within this book, and things get revealed, things get, you know, resolved, and everything worked. Everything about this worked. There wasn't anything that I would have changed about this book. There wasn't a point in the book where I was like, oh, I'm bored. Like, I read this so fast. I read this on the plane, which typically I have a little bit of a hard time reading on the plane. I don't know why. It's just not comfortable for me. But I actually read quite a lot of this book on the plane, and I was really proud of myself. And once I started to read this book, I did not want to put it down. It was so difficult to stop reading, and I just absolutely loved it, and I cannot wait for the sequel. Like I said, I know that this is going to be a series that I love, and I'm so glad that Ashley Herring Blake decided to put out some adult romances, because I've only read her YA book, How to Make a Wish, and I loved that book a few years ago, but because I'm in my adult romance era for the past few years, I'm just like eating this up, and it's amazing, it's iconic. And I mean, if you need a queer book to read for June, this is a good pick. This is a good one. The next book that I read was actually a reread, and I know that I said I needed a few months, you know, to kind of recoup from reading the series, but I feel like I've, you know, left it alone for enough time. I wanted to come back to it, especially with the announcement of season 3, and that is Romancing Mr. Bridgerton by Julia Quinn. So if you haven't been keeping up with the Bridgerton news, season 3 has been announced, and it has also been announced that Colin and Penelope will be the main couple for season 3. I literally can't talk about this without shaking, crying, throwing up. I'm so excited. I'm ready to see Colin Bridgerton be humbled. I'm ready to see him cry. I'm ready to see him be destroyed. And I want him to grovel. I want him to have to work so hard to get Penelope back. I need that. I need that to happen. Penelope deserves it. We all deserve it. And Colin deserves it, honestly. So I'm so excited, honestly. I have so many like thoughts, feelings, emotions. If you want to hear all of my thoughts, feelings, and emotions, let me know, because maybe I will film like a video or something. But obviously, I don't know if you can tell, but Romancing Mr. Bridgerton is my favorite book of the series, and that one obviously follows Colin and Penelope, and it's iconic. We love it. I've already talked about it at length in my original Bridgerton video, which I will link down below. But yeah, this reread was so much fun, and there were so many other little details that I was like, oh yeah, I forgot this happened, or oh my god, I didn't even notice that this happened at first. So this was definitely a really, really great reread, and I cannot wait to see how they take this story and adapt it for this TV show, because the timelines are completely different. There's a lot of different things that have happened in the TV show that are going to affect the way that events play out in, you know, from this book. So I'm so pumped to see how they handle it, and like how they bring in other little elements from the other books, because there's definitely some things with like Eloise's plot line, Benedict's plot line, etc. So I'm excited, and hopefully we'll get to see more Lady Danbury, because she's a big part of this book. Hopefully we'll get to see more Hyacinth, because she's a big part of this book as well. So I'm just pumped. I'm so ready. I mean, I feel like there's not a lot I can say about this book. I can't really describe it really, because it's a lot of spoilers. So, and I feel like a lot of people who have seen the show haven't yet read the books, so I don't want to spoil anything, but just know it's my favorite Bridgerton book. In my heart of hearts, it's a 5 stars, but in reality, it's a 3.5. That probably makes no sense to anybody, but you know, that's just my rating system. I don't understand it. It comes from my entire being. I have to take a lot of things into account when I make these ratings. I don't know why, no one really cares. The next book that I read was I Remember Nothing by Nora Ephron, and I gave this book a 3 out of 5 stars. This is basically a short collection of essays chronicling a lot of like the later years of Nora Ephron, of like her life, of her dealing with aging, There are a few essays that deal with some of her earlier moments in her career, but a lot of it is definitely centered around her later life. I was actually really interested in reading this book mainly because I have just watched for the first time in my life When Harry Met Sally and also You've Got Mail, and I loved both of those movies so much. They're two of my new favorite movies. I could watch them right now immediately. I loved them so much. They've definitely changed my life. I love them. I think they're fantastic. I wish I would have seen these movies back in like high school or something. I would have made them my entire personality. But I was a little underwhelmed by this collection of essays. I wanted more. I wanted something a bit more, I wanted something a little less surface level. I felt like this was just a lot of her kind of complaining about aging, which I totally understand. Like, aging sucks. I'm only 27 and I literally hate it, but however, it was just kind of like repetitive. It was kind of boring. There were some parts that I really enjoyed and then others that I just wasn't really interested in, and I don't think that this was the right book for me. There's definitely some other books that she's written that I would love to read. This one just wasn't it, honestly. So that's unfortunate. Just wasn't my favorite, but I do love her movies. I still need to watch a few other ones like Sleepless in Seattle. Still haven't seen that movie. Definitely need to watch it. So yeah, kind of an underwhelming essay collection, but I mean, if you're a Nora Ephron stan, you're probably gonna love it. And the very last book that I read in the month of May was Red at the Bone by Jacqueline Woodson, and I gave this a 5 out of 5 stars. This book was absolutely breathtakingly phenomenal. I read this on the way to LAX to go pick up my brother and his girlfriend. They came and visited from New York, and this was a super short audiobook. I think I read it in maybe 2 hours, and I loved it. It was fantastic. It was gorgeous, incredible, beautiful, breathtaking. This really is a character study book. So if you're looking for plot, if you're looking for like action, things happening, whatever, this is not going to be the book for you. This is very character detail oriented. And as a character reader, writer, everything, like I live for character. This was perfect for me. Basically, this follows this family through a few generations. I believe that there are the grandparents, the parents, and then the children or the child. And this deals a lot with teenage pregnancy. This also deals a lot with trauma, with racism, with how all these traumatic experiences affect the next generation and like the next generation, the next, you know, whatever. It has a lot of things that it deals with, and it does it so beautifully, and it's able to do it without feeling like overwhelmed. Like, you don't feel like, okay, there's like way too many things going on. I've read books like that, and like when they try to do too many things at once, sometimes it doesn't work. But Jacqueline Woodson is an absolute artiste, and she was able to weave all of these really intricate and deep and traumatic things and make it into this really beautiful story. This is a really hard book to talk about because, like I said, there's not really a plot to this book, so I can't necessarily describe to you what happens, but I recommend it to a lot of people, honestly. Like, I can't even like figure out like who specifically to recommend it to. Just like anybody watching this video, pick up this book. It's absolutely beautiful. Like, the prose is so gorgeous, so gorgeous. And I really love the audiobook in particular because every single character and their chapter is narrated by a different audiobook narrator. So because of that, you really get a feel of every single character that's in this book. And it's really interesting to see, you know, the family dynamics of it all and how every single character feels about the family, feels about each other, feels about the things that are happening. There's a lot of topics of racism, religion, teen pregnancy, relationships, mother-daughter relationships, father-daughter relationships, grandparent relationships, etc. So like, there's so many things happening in this book. Even if you're not like a character-driven reader, you might still like this. It was absolutely phenomenal. It's so short, it's so bite-sized, like you can read it in one sitting. So yeah, definitely check out this book if you haven't. I feel like I'm probably one of the last people to read it, so maybe you've already read it. Okay, so those were all of the books that I read in the month of May. So let's just quickly jump over to the books that I want to read in June. Starting off, I've already started this book, and that is The Roughest Draft by Emily Wibberley and Austin Sigmund Broca. I'm currently, let's see, I am 27 pages in. I just started it yesterday. I was reading outside. I wanted to get some sun. It was a beautiful, gorgeous day, and I am absolutely loving it. I'm obsessed. I need them to write so many more adult romances. This is perfect for fans of Emily Henry, perfect for fans of Talia Hibbert. It's like giving that kind of vibe, that kind of like, it's giving that kind of like lit fic, contemporary romance vibe. And it works. It works. I'm so excited. It's about these co-writers, and they have had a falling out. They have had some drama. Things have happened. They don't want to write together ever again, but they are under contract and they need to write another book together. And I'm ready to see where this takes me. I'm so excited. I feel like I'm gonna fall in love with it. And I have been struggling to read books physically lately, but this one I was just like buzzing through. I was racing through it, and I think I only picked it up for like maybe 10 minutes or like 20 minutes or whatever, and I already read almost 30 pages. So clearly I'm pretty obsessed with this book. It's fantastic. The cover's gorgeous. I actually do have another copy of this because someone bought it for me off my wish list, and then I also ordered it from, I think, Pango Books, and I need to sell the other copy of this book. So if you want to check out my Pango Books account, it'll be linked down below, and I'll probably have a copy of this for sale. So if you want to check that out, go ahead. And then because it's Pride Month, I did have to borrow some books from Hoopla, so I have quite a few audiobooks for this month. And first one is If It Makes You Happy by Claire Kahn. Really excited to read that book. Then another one is Never Been Kissed by Timothy Janofsky. This one I feel like I've seen in like a video at some point. I think I might have watched a video of like some most anticipated romance books for 2022, and this was on that list. So I'm really excited to read this one. There's also Book Boyfriend by Chris Ripper. I've already read a Chris Ripper book. I can't remember if I read it this year or last year. But I did really enjoy the book that I read from him, so really excited about that. Surrender Your Sons by Adam Sass. I actually own that book physically. Tell Me How You Really Feel by Amina May Safi. I also own this book physically. And the last book that I borrowed was All of You, Every Single One by Beatrice Hitchman. So I have quite a few Pride-themed LGBTQ books. I'm really excited to get to them. I don't really have like a set TBR for this month, at least not physically, mainly because I have so many other physical books that I need to read that I need to get to immediately. So I'm trying not to overwhelm myself. I have so many reading vlogs going on at one time. It's just mind-boggling. The mind boggles. So yeah, I'm kind of busy. Anyway, I really hope that you enjoyed getting to hear about the books that I read in May and the books that I want to read in June. Let me know down below in the comments any of the books that you read in May, which ones you liked, which ones you didn't like, and also let me know about some of the books that you want to read in June, especially if they're queer. I want to hear about them. So if you enjoyed this video, go ahead and give it a thumbs up and subscribe to my channel. Also go ahead and follow me on Instagram, Twitter, Goodreads, TikTok, Storygraph, Pango Books, all of the links that are going to be down below, and I will see you all in my next video. Bye! Ooh, I thought it'd be me and you.